Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. And today we're at the Morvern Spring Gardening Show. Now this is one of those shows that manages to really capture the essence of the season.
I love it particularly because I come here and meet old friends and make the acquaintance of loads of new plants.
It's funny, you know, you and I have been coming to this show for years, and it's my local show, and I sort of feel I know it very well, but it is extraordinary how one always does find inspiration and see new things.
Yeah, loads of excitement.
Now, Joe can't join us because he's busy with his Chelsea garden, and Rachel was due to be here with us, but unfortunately she's unwell. So the garden designer, James Alexander-Sinclair, has stepped into her shoes. Now, each time I come to Malvern, I always head straight off to the Floral marquee. And yesterday, I got in there for a preview before the crowds arrived. The great thing about coming in early is that you get to see the stands being put together. And of course, a stand is assembled to look as good as it possibly can do. And all the plant combinations and the colours are very, very carefully considered. And that's exactly what we try and do with our borders. So watching how they do it gives me lots of tips and hints on how to do it in the garden at home. And at Morvern, what I'm looking for in particular is a kind of freshness. Morvern captures spring. And that's the essence that I'm after. See, this is what I mean. What you get at Morvern is a kind of delicate elegance. And it doesn't last long. Summer blows it away, but while it's there, it really is lovely. And for example, I need my glasses to see this properly, but the outlines of this Primula Sieboldi lilac sunbonnet that you need to get close to, you need to look down on and take in them little piecemeal by piecemeal. And it invites a kind of intimacy. You're drawn into it all. And that's the very best of it, I think. Flowers don't often get covered in garden shows, but they play a really useful role. You can go through them all, see the ones you like, get their names, ask the growers any tips needed about any characteristic of those plants, make a note, and then order it for your own garden. And you know exactly what it will look like, and you can never get that from a picture. Seeing them in the flesh is the real thing. Tell you what, under canvas is the place to be. It's pelting there. Have a look at these. That is a stunning flower. And peonies do combine that voluptuousness of tulips and this ruffled elegance of roses. And I have to say, if nothing else, I want to grow more peonies. I think they're stunning, and I can't think why I haven't made more of them in the past. Now, it's not just about plants here at Morvern. There's all kinds of inspiration to be found. And I'm going to find mine now from the show gardens. And to look at this year's show gardens, I'm meeting up with an old friend of mine, James Alexander-Sinclair, who's not only a renowned garden designer, but also an experienced RHS judge. James, this is spectacular as a show garden, but would it work as a real garden?
It will, up to a point. I mean, there are certain parameters which you need to buy into, and that what it needs is it really needs a hot, sunny garden with fantastic drainage, because all of these plants will survive, provided they don't end up with wet feet.
Right, so that's a problem, really. Hence the slope, I guess.
Yeah, hence the slope, hence the poor soil.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a Spanish hillside, isn't it, really?
Well, it's actually Cotswold stone, which is quite good.
Cotswold stone, which is excellent.
It's made by these olive trees.
It is. Without the olive trees, it would be nothing. Without these old, ancient, gnarly olive trees, isn't it?
If I go to my garden centre and say I want an old, ancient and particularly gnarly tree, how much is that going to set me back?
The gnarliest of olive trees, one of these sort of nice big ones, is going to set you back about £2,000.
Right.
But in the right place, that's £2,000 very well spent. So it can make a garden.
Right, this is very, very different.
Completely different.
Now, I know the brief was to make a garden, north-facing plot,
Yep.
modern build,
Yep.
and an awkward shape.
Yeah, it's a little sort of funny corner taken off the bottom, isn't it? Which you often find in sort of new housing developments. And I think he's done it rather well. What do you think?
Well, I like it. I mean, it has a very different ambition to the garden. This is not to wow you and bowl you over, but I like the way that it's got really nice, generous structure, good oak frame, saying small garden doesn't stop you having big ideas. The only thing that I am wondering is if this is a north-facing garden and there's no sun, why do we need the shade of a pergola?
Because, I think, it's not there for shade. It's there for privacy, because if you've got neighbours to the left, to the right and to the left of you, packed in, then all of these climbers will then grow across the top of it, and you've got somewhere here where you cannot be overlooked.
You see, I like the way you have to go around the garden, because that makes you see the garden, but the truth is, you and I know, you pop out, you go and sit down, you forget something.
We're going to do this, aren't we?
That's what's going to happen. So if I had a criticism, I'd say that you either need to block the route or make it accessible.
I think a straight line, because then you link this piece of paving to that piece of paving, it would work very nicely.
This garden is bigger than most show gardens, but it's got some nice ideas you can apply to a garden of any size. And the most obvious is this structure. It's essentially a pergola, but they've used two things which I think transform it. The first is they've used really nice materials. It's green oak, and by using green oak, it makes it something that's going to last. It's beautiful in its own right. And the second thing is it's witty. It's a large structure which they made look like the skeleton of a crock-frame barn. So it feels like a building. Now, the next thing I really like is the way the water works in relationship to the path. You've got a formal pond there, and the water runs down from it to a wildlife pond, and it crosses the path here. Now, on one level, that's a glorified gutter, but actually, just a few feet of a narrow rill crossing a path gives you all the texture and sound of water, whilst accommodating it into any garden of any size. Now, nobody could accuse this garden of not having enough planting.
No, this is perfect show garden planting. Not an inch of soil is visible underneath it, and really, really good quality plants.
They're lovely, aren't they? And the detail is really good. There's nothing you can see that could be made better in any way.
I mean, it's the sort of thing that you look for when you're a judge. It's the quality of the joints, the way that the water is exactly the right level for the paving, the way it's been cut out nicely. It is spot on.
Now, that means the execution is really good. Do we like it? I do. I mean, I think there are a lot of nice things here that you can take away. I like the sort of generosity of it.
It's a slight sort of looseness as well. It's supposed to be a garden for relaxing in after work. It's got a really good circulation to it. So, you know, we're sort of coming slowly back to where we began without really noticing.
And also, there is this one main feature that immediately stands out, which is the fern wall.
Which is spectacular, unusual, and extraordinarily effective.
It works, doesn't it? So no surprise that this is best in show.
No surprise at all.
Whilst the show gardens are undoubtedly a draw, lots of people come to Morvern for the shopping. And there's everything here, from inexpensive plants to handcrafted garden buildings, with a sliding scale of price tags to match. So Carol and James have hit the stalls. To James on his fantasy shopping spree, money's no object. Whilst Carol is feeling frugal, looking for plants that with a bit of know-how can bulk up your borders for a little more than a few quid.
What Malvern's about to me is plants, plants, more plants. Do you know, at Malvern last year, there were almost 85,000 visitors, and the average spend was about £96. But what I really want to find out about is how to make more plants for your pennies. At this time of the year, one of the best ways of increasing your plants is by taking cuttings. Nothing's better than these perennial wallflowers, erysimums, but this is a really favourite one, bull's mauve. And if you pick up one of these plants, already you can see all these little side shoots starting to emerge. And when you take this home, if you're brave enough to take off those first flowers, it will bring on those side shoots. In a couple of weeks' time, you can just push down those little cuttings, put them around the edge of a clay pot in gritty compost, and in a few weeks' time, you'll have a whole host of new plants. Of course, if the object of the exercise is to grow lots of plants, large numbers, then nothing beats seed. And with Aquilegias, that's always the best way of growing them. And what's so exciting is you're never quite sure what you're going to get. There are no guarantees. But as you see your seedlings emerge, grow up, come into bud, the anticipation of the flowers you're going to behold is wonderful. Probably the easiest and the most straightforward way of propagating plants is to divide them. Well, it's the only way really to propagate this plant. This is an ornamental rhubarb called Rheum Ace of Hearts, and you grow it for this splendid colour on the back of the leaves. And once your plant's established, in a couple of years, it'll have made a big clump. You just take a sharp spade, nothing could be easier. Shove it into the middle, down with your foot and take a piece off and replant it, and off it goes. Ooh, what a beauty. And just look at this. Now, Geranium sanguineum is propagated from root cuttings, and if you take this big chunk of root out and you chop it up in chunks about 2 inches long, plonk them on the top of a little seed tray with good compost in, and put a bit of grit on the top, each one of the nodules all along this root will actually produce a new shoot. And you'll have miles more plants. And that's the thing, once you've paid for your plant, you can take it home, and whether you're going to divide it, take cuttings from it, or gather seed from it, there's nothing else to pay.
Well, I'm going to be looking at things that are indulgently expensive. So, if you happen to have won the lottery and you're here at Morvern and you want some instant impact, I can offer you this. This is the Himalayan birch. This particular one is about 20 years old and will set you back a cool 1,500 quid. But you will get the best birch bark of them all. There's one small disadvantage. Unless you have a very large spade and a very strong back, you'll also need one of these. A whopping great tree spade. And remember, as money is no object, these trees are often best planted in groups of 7. Hey, over here. Every man loves his shed, but if you're feeling a bit flush, then this is the creme de la creme of sheds. Pretty well an extra room to your house. In here, you can have almost anything you want. You can have wood-burning stoves, you can have tables, desks, you can even have a slightly springy bed and a fabulous view of your rolling baronial acres out there. So, for £12,500, you can have a fully insulated shepherd's hut, from which you may watch over your flock or escape from your entire family. If you want to splash some cash on a serious window box, then how about this? £3,000 worth of Yorkshire stone. This, once upon a time, used to be a drinking trough in a farm in the Yorkshire Dales, and now it's a small garden. You can do this. You need to make sure that there's enough drainage in the bottom, a few holes, and then fill it up to about here with gravel, and then you've got enough space to grow things that are small and also enough room for something that's a bit bigger. The other way of doing it is, if you look here, there's another one without the drainage holes being used as a pond. Any of these things are interesting and exciting and big enough to make a focal point for pretty well any garden. The only problem is, if you want this one, you're a bit late. It's been sold. You could, of course, blow the whole budget on bulbs. This here is Crinum powellii, or the swamp lily, and this bulb is 20 years old and will set you back about 100 quid. But for a mere 3 quid, you can have one of these. It's the same thing, and this bulb will produce the most glorious, pale pink, perfectly scented flower to about 1.2 meters, and it only costs 3 quid. And that makes it the cheapest thing that I've seen all day.
I have to confess that even though I obviously love these shows, as you walk into a big marquee like this, there's always a slight sensation of being overwhelmed. Well, I think the key thing is to have some kind of plan, even if it's just to buy or see one particular plant, and then work around that so that you don't try and take it all in one go, but just let it come to you gradually. Now, what I'm particularly looking for today are plants for dry, shady conditions. And I know that what will fit that bill are ferns. Now, the truth is, ferns are not a glamorous plant, but where they are in the right place, they can look absolutely fantastic. Most ferns prefer rather damp conditions, particularly moist air, but there are a handful that are absolutely right for deep, dark, dry shade. So I'm certainly going to look for those. And as far as drought goes, it may have been raining an awful lot over the last few weeks, but the drought still continues, there are still hosepipe bans, and they're likely to stay in place for quite a long time yet. Now, Tim, I'm looking for ferns that will fulfill a particular brief. Got a couple of really ultra-dry, dark corners.
Okay.
I want them to be ferny. And I also want to have natives, too.
Okay, we can do that because people always talk about ferns for wet areas,
Yeah.
but there are so many ferns that do really well in dry areas. The one little clue I can give you is anything that's called Dryopteris, beginning with DRY, Dryopteris will do really well in a dry spot.
Right,
So the first one,
dry plant,
easy
yes,
to remember.
yeah.
The first one I'd recommend is Dryopteris cristata,
Yeah.
known as the king.
Yeah.
But my fern expert, Martin Rickard, always calls it Elvis because he's a great Elvis
Because Elvis
fan.
is the king.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So Cristata the king is a must.
Right.
And that'll get to about 2.5, 3
Yeah.
feet tall.
Yeah.
It's the king of male ferns.
Yes.
Moving on from that, if you think about heartstone ferns, everybody sees them in the hedges in Devon, particularly, where we're from, and they're very natural. But there's one called the Splenium scolopendrium marginatum, and it's got a margin on it. It's a little crispy heartstone, and that'll be fantastic in that area. But that's one that people are familiar
Right.
with because they've seen it in the hedges.
Okay.
But it's a little bit more interesting. It's a bit more twisty and exciting. It's quite vibrant. And then, really, you need to have Polystichum setiferum, known as the soft shield fern.
Right.
A great fern, been around for many, many years. Again, a wonderful British native. And one of those plants that has got an AGM, an Award of Garden Merit, and will do fantastically well in that situation.
Now, this is the exciting bit for me. Let's get the plants together.
Okay.
Okay. Well, getting these into the ground is a job that I'll really look forward to doing. And if you're not coming to the show, here are some jobs you can get on with in your garden this weekend. If, like mine, your strawberries are coming into flower, now is a good time to cloche some of them. This will spread your harvest by enabling the protected fruit to develop and ripen earlier. Don't cover up the ends of the cloches, as you want to allow access for pollinating insects and also keep the plants well ventilated. If you leave broad beans unstaked, they curl and twist and flop all over the place. So support them with a strong stake and string and keep them growing upright. And at the very least, that makes harvesting a lot easier. Prick out young seedlings as soon as they're ready. And you'll know this because they develop a true leaf. And that's a sign there are roots beneath the soil. Lift them carefully, taking as much root as possible, holding them always by a leaf. If you damage the stem, then you'll lose the seedling. Pot it on into a small pot or a plug so it can grow strongly and then be ready to plant out in a few weeks' time. Despite the horrible weather we've had this spring, it is getting warmer. And now is the time to start hardening off plants, ready to plant out into their final positions at the end of the month. Do this by degrees. So first of all, put them in a protected place, and then move them to a more exposed position for at least a week before planting. But do pay attention to the weather forecast. There are still chances of frosts in many parts of the country.
The floral marquee has to be my very favourite bit of the Malvern show, because packed in under this roof are all manner of wondrous plants. It's a true treasure trove, and there are plants here from all over the world. And there are exhibitors from all over the UK, including Cabot garden plants who've come down from Scotland. And what wonders they've brought with them, including this exquisite Meconopsis punicea. Did you ever see anything like that? Each of its petals are like a piece of washed silk. It's absolutely lovely. And it's from the high slopes of the Himalayas, so it's really enjoying the mist here at Malvern. And as if that wasn't enough, they've even got crosses between that and the little blue Meconopsis called Meconopsis quintupli nervia. This, which I've never seen before, is Meconopsis cross cookii. It really is out of this world. Of course, Meconopsis have so many different qualities, but scent isn't one of them. But on this stand, there are all manner of plants which do have beautiful perfume, including, strangely enough, some of these dainty little Asiatic primulas. But of all the plants on the whole stand, this is probably the one with the best perfume. This is the Lusianskira ovata. But when I bend down and give it a sniff, there's nothing at the moment. And that's because it waits until dusk descends to belt out this perfume in absolute bucket loads. If you look at the plant, each flower has got this great long corolla tube, which is a clue to what pollinates it. It's moths, and of course that scent really draws them in. Of course, most plants exude their perfume during daylight hours, and a lot of them need sunshine. Well, even on this grey day, this plant is really pumping out the perfume. It's Coronilla valentina glaucocitrina, and it's a member of the pea family. It's a legume, And you can see that when you look at each of these beautiful pale flowers. And this is a plant which will continue to flower right the way through the year, providing you can give it what it wants, which is a very, very sunny place and good drainage. Put it in the right place and it'll belt out that perfume right the way through the year. A few of the stands in the Floral marquee are devoted to just one genus of plants. And you usually find that the people who put on those exhibits and run those nurseries are totally addicted to them. And Layla Jackson is just such a person. Layla, there's such an enormous range of these plants. You know, I only know one or two.
No, it's a huge range. There's 18 different varieties on the stand today, ranging from fully hardy to really quite tender varieties that do beautifully in the conservatory.
I mean, that's how people most associate butylons,
Yes,
don't
of course they do. They do, but the misconception is that they're all tender, but that's not true. There's some wonderful range of megabotamicums that are fully hardy.
That's the ones with the lovely red and yellow droopy flowers.
Lovely small leaves. Small flowers tend to be a good indication that they're good and hardy for the garden. That's also with Kentish Bell and Patrick Sing. They both do extremely well outside.
I wish I was right in notes, really. And easy to cultivate.
Oh, extremely well, yes. They don't mind what soil type. They take quite an open soil or quite a solid clay. They love the richness of the clay, but also sun or shade. They're really quite versatile.
And how long do they flower for?
If you're going to have them in a conservatory, you can have 12 months flowering, no problem whatsoever. But if outdoors, they're really going to come into their own end of May, flower all the way through to December, and then if we have a mild winter, we'll still have flowering in January and February.
That's good enough for me. And butylons for Christmas.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Of all the plants I've seen today, this has to be the showstopper. It's Nicotiana mutabilis. It's called that because the flower colour changes from white right through to this deep pink. You can grow hundreds of plants from just one packet of seed. And what's more, it's scented of passion fruit. What more could you want?
Well, it's time to go home, get my plants into the ground. But the weather forecast this weekend is good, so come along to the show and see for yourself. And I'll be back in the garden next week, so join me then. Bye-bye.